What is your why? Do you want dynamic growth? Do you feel stuck? It's time to fix your why.
I'm Billy Ryan, and you are joining me on the Fix Your Why podcast. Today, my guest is Yvette Lopez, attorney by trade, founder of Development Culture and her nonprofit, Dev Culture. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity.
We have to spend a little bit of time on where you've been because it's fascinating, the background you have, and then really want to talk about everything you're doing. You're a rookie entrepreneur.
Yes.
Which I love.
Yes.
So let's talk about where you've been, just briefly.
Okay, briefly. Right out of law school, I was recruited to become the advisor for the president of the Dominican Republic, which was very interesting, and did that for about 10 years. And then after, when my contract ended, came to Texas. My husband had a job offer here, and I went to work for the federal government. So I worked for the last 8 years, Department of Homeland Security, Defense Intelligence Agency, Department of Labor, Department of Transportation. And then up until 4 months ago, when I decided to leave and start my own company.
Which has got to be so exciting.
It is exciting,
so talk a little
scary
bit about,
and exciting at the same time.
So there's development culture
Yes.
and dev culture.
Correct.
Let's talk about both and the differences between them.
Okay, so the Development Culture is an LLC. It is a for-profit, and it is a consulting firm that focuses on a human-centered approach to strategic planning, project design, training programs that focuses on communications, partnerships, and productivity in order to develop an environment, a culture of growth and development. And then Dev Culture, which is my nonprofit, is also focused on individual growth and development, but it promotes inclusion as well as equal access to opportunities.
And why did you embark on this journey?
Well, as I think many of us who have experienced what it is to work in toxic cultures, I always identified those root causes and things that I could fix. So throughout my 8 years in government, I was always the one working process improvement, working and mentoring with individuals to kind of forge their career path and find out what their why is and find out how I could help them move from their current state to their desired state. So that, which was a hobby for over 20 years, fast forward, is now, my company.
I think it's a great thing for any of us to find our hobby and make it our everyday
Absolutely.
job, if you will.
Absolutely.
Don't like the word job, but so that, and your heart for wanting to help others is incredible. Big question is, starting one company is a challenge. You've started two. How does one person make both of those things happen?
Well, you find a good team, and up until now it's been friends and family that have been helping, but it's pretty much, a lot of it is the same service. It's a focus on ensuring that people have an opportunity to find their why, to map out a plan, to work out, your life is your business. So we see businesses work and invest in creating a good strategic plan. Our life is our business, and a lot of people are just surviving and not thriving. So on both sides, the one is for profit, but the other one, I'm hoping that with Dev Culture, I can raise money to be able to focus on my target populations, which are those people that are in transition, that have been laid off after, working 10 years for a company. Now they're trying to figure out what their next steps are. High school seniors, college freshmen that, many times go into college and switch their majors 3 and 4 times and end up, instead of studying for 4 years, are there 5 and 6 years. So I'm hoping that I can, with Dev Culture, really kind of start a movement, so to speak, because life is too short. And what we don't want is, wasted time, wasted resources. We have limited time and resources. So we want to be able to invest in ourselves to be the happiest that we can be.
I Totally agree. In between the two entities, do you think your customer is the same for each? And if so, why would you move a customer from one to the other organization?
So the for-profit side is coaching, it's the mentoring, it's the workshops and the training programs. And in phase 3, it would be organizations. But on the dev culture side, I work right now, and I think I told you a little bit about Latinos in Grapevine.
Yes.
It's a great example of the initiatives that come from dev culture. So Latinos in Grapevine, in the city of Grapevine here in Texas, they're 40%, Latinos are 40% of the population. And a lot of them only speak Spanish. So they come, they work 2 and 3 jobs, but things that you and I take for granted, such as, interacting with the police, knowing what our rights and responsibilities are, just the school system, college admissions, they're not able to kind of maneuver the way that we do because we've been here all of our lives. So there's a lot of things that we take for granted. So I'm, working with the school district and the city of Grapevine and the Grapevine Police Department to set up these workshops in order to provide them with information to help them become confident decision makers and ultimately help their children to do the same. So it's a different population, and I'm hoping that dev culture, we could be able to raise money to be able to provide scholarships and continue that type of work. It even eventually, hopefully, work with the government to be able to provide orientation programs for newly visaed permanent resident aliens that come here and just have no clue what to do, where to get English classes, just don't have the resources. So I'm hoping that we can do that and kind of help them hit the ground running.
That's incredible. You talk about interfacing with some of the existing government agencies, the police, whatever. Mm-hmm. How are you received when you try to establish that connection?
It hasn't been easy,
right.
But part of it is understanding that it's also an economic issue, right? So using Latinos in Grapevine and the city of Grapevine, for example, 40% of your population is Latino, and their children aren't going to college. Eventually, and brain drain, right? Folks are leaving. Eventually, what is your population going to look like? And so we want to make sure that we're investing in that segment of the population in order to continue to educate and give them an opportunity to own their own businesses and know how to set those up, financial literacy, just all of those different things that, they wouldn't normally know how to maneuver, so that we give them a leg up. And so it really would, for the cities, for the government, it really represents an economic development issue. And so I think that they are understanding that now.
And I mean, as we know, the need is great, right? And again, I think your clients, if that's the label you use, would be lucky to find you and the services that Dev Culture provides. But I also imagine you're bumping into the status quo, right? It's interesting. The people that have need sometimes they accept the status quo. I don't know the language. It's hard for me to get a job, all these things. And they toil within that status quo. They don't look up and see that, there's another way to live your life. Now,
Absolutely.
You, I imagine, created this organization. I don't know if it was driven by frustration, but you're a change seeker.
Yes.
And you the need's obvious, but it's not, there aren't a lot of people doing it, right? We all know there's a need, but that doesn't mean some of us want to do it or even are capable of doing it. Right. You did it as a hobby. Right. When you were doing it as a hobby, what did the status quo look like to you? Were you bumping into the status quo then, or did you just, as a hobby, were you just helping friends and family, or did word get out that you need to see Yvette because she can really help you with life?
Absolutely. That's how it started, friends and family. And then the word got out there and I had more people calling. Really, it's about really understanding who you are, what matters to you and why it matters, and that fluctuates, right? So we're constantly evolving, and based on life experiences, we're constantly changing. I always tell people that, you know, we do all these research projects. Whether I want to start a business, I look that up, right?
Yeah.
Or whether I'm in college, I'm researching, you know, X, Y, and Z, and we get kind of into it, and the pros, the cons, we can debate about it, but the primary research project you should have is yourself. And so focusing on really tapping into those talents and gifts that are innate within you, to me, is really, really important. MIT did a study last year that toxic cultures are the number one reason why people resign. Right? People are miserable, apathetic. There's lack of engagement, right? And so I really think that if we tapped into, you know, discovering who we are, why it matters, you know, we could get from where we are to what our ideal would be, whether that be a dream job or whether it be, you know, stay at home mom, right? Just trying to map that out and see what that looks like. It has to be a constant journey.
Right.
Because we're constantly changing, and, you know, work-life balance, you know, people throw that out there, but really it's a trade-off that you do based on the season in your life. You know,
That's right.
Primarily right now, maybe your child is important to you, so you put career on the back burner, and then maybe you focus on so you're always kind of doing this trade-off, and each season will require you to look back in and think about your why, reprioritize, and really come up with a plan that will help you, again, move from current state to future state. So yeah, it's been a journey, but I think it's so important that people understand that life is too short, and a lot of people kind of get stuck. And so that's what I want to help, you know, just being able to understand creatively what your options are, and really kind of, you know, understanding your power. A lot of people feel powerless and stuck. And so that's what I hope that development culture will do.
So you just mentioned development culture. The dev culture is the nonprofit, right?
Correct.
So that is, I'm guessing, a community with greater need. Yes. Than the clients you serve in development culture.
Right.
Tell me more, and tell the audience more about development culture, because I'm sure there are a lot of people listening that are sitting there thinking, boy, I need to find the website. I need
Yes.
to get some of these services.
Yes. Well, hopefully by the time this airs, we will have a website. We actually officially launched in January. And so, yes, the website will be devculture.org. Please don't go there until the end of January. But yeah, so it's the phase one will be the Building Yourself service area, where we will provide coaching and mentoring, and, you know, a membership platform where people will be able to go in and kind of think about their why and go through a personal strategic planning framework. And then we'll move into the second and third phases. But that is the first phase of development culture.
That's great. And the audience for development culture,
Yes.
Students,
people in transition, people who feel like they don't have purpose, people who wake up every morning, don't have an expectation for the adventure that is life. One of my favorite phrases is that, you know, God gives us the gift of life. What we do with it is our gift back to him. And so I think that, you know, life is just too short. And I think that in a pandemic with COVID, people kind of really reassess their priorities and understood that, you know, life is too short to be miserable. And so, you know, we're all about working harder, working smarter, not harder, and being able to kind of set the path forward to maximize potential.
I'm sure you're running like crazy trying to get ready for that January launch. Absolutely. What's your greatest challenge today?
My greatest challenge today for Dev Culture is being able to raise funds. Obviously, you know, I haven't launched as of yet, but really trying to network and find the people who have the vision. Again, you mentioned status quo. So, you know,
Right.
This is kind of counterculture almost, to be able to say, you know what, if you focus on people, they will give you their 150%, and that will make your bottom line increase, right? That's very very difficult when it's just productivity. But as we can see with the Great Resignation, people want more. So yeah, it's really getting the funds to do what we do with Dev Culture, and then really my biggest challenge is social media and trying to kind of buy into the fact that, being completely dependent on it, and finding that sweet spot between really kind of just using it as a tool.
Well, I just want to thank you for being a part of this podcast today, and really have enjoyed hearing your story in a little bit more detail. We'll be staying in touch to see how the launch goes in January.
Awesome.
I hope you all enjoyed this episode today as much as I did. I have great admiration for people like Yvette that see need and rise to that challenge. Hope you all have a great day.